Hey guys, this is PonkCast 2. So we're going to be just talking about Final Fantasy Remake in this one. I absolutely loved the game. As an OG player, it was just incredible. As a bit of background, I enjoyed 7, 8, 9 and 10. I love them all. I don't get this whole, oh, this one was crap, this one was bad. My least favourite was probably 9, just because it was a little bit way out there. Things out. I started with 7 and 8. Real humans and stuff. But it's like 9. There's all sorts of little characters and creatures in there. But I still thoroughly enjoyed all of them. So I've never been part of these sort of. I like one way or the other. I've just enjoyed all of them. So when a remake was announced, I was thrilled to bits. But I never believed in terms of. I just thought, it's probably going to be at best a remaster. Still going to play it, still going to love it. I didn't think they'd remake it, and when we get down to this, they've really remade this one. Just a quick note on the old LTG low tier god thing. I believe Zero, she got banned as well. So yeah, don't be racist, guys. I think if she got banned for 2 years, then that's harsh. Like a month. 4 weeks seems good for that, but I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs, but for me personally, a month's enough for sure. But hey, I don't control these things. Just don't be racist, guys. Don't be transphobic, and just accept people as best you can. Simple as that. If you don't like something, just ignore them. Anyway, let's go straight on to the remake thing, because this is going to take me ages. The music in the original was incredible. In the remake, it's even better. The way they get the music to crescendo at certain points, or change tracks at the right moment to something that's more fitting and things like that. It's something else. It's a sensory overload experience similar to that of Doom. If you've played the recent Doom, is it Mick Gordon? I can't remember his name exactly, but if you're looking at the level of just music fitting the genre and what you're doing, it's right there. There are a couple of misses, I'm not gonna lie, like some of the Chocobo themes when some of the jokey moments comes in just don't fit. I love the old Chocobo themes, but some of the remastered version stuff, they're just not that good. But in general, the highs are just way beyond, anything else. The gameplay, the actual battle mechanics are just sort of the best I've ever played in that sort of genre of game. It's almost like they had this idea in Final Fantasy from 12 to 13 of this battle system that they really liked. They wanted a bit more engagement from the player than just hitting a menu. They wanted to use the next gen consoles to the best they can. And they never really pulled it off. And in 15, it really shows that they really never pulled it off. And it was, I didn't like 15 at all. But in this game, my God, they pulled it off. This is the perfect blend of action, defense, and tactical with the ATB in a game that I've played. It was fantastic. The side missions, as we will get on to, were not the best. They were dull at times, and they were filler. But the combat in the side missions, I was never bored or dull during the combat at all. The enemies are, although there are some copy-paste stuff, that they're true to the original. The enemies, a lot of the enemies in the original are pretty much all here. And they've got different tactics that you need to employ against them. And I like the fact that you can't just mash square and get through everything. Maybe you can on easy, but on normal, if you just mash square, you're gonna be beating your head against the wall. You have to assess these enemies. You have to know what you're against, and you have to tactically fight them. And I like that. Gives you a better sense of gratification once you topple the enemy. The story. So let's just go on to the general story, not going into the plot or anything, but just the general story. I loved all the extra things that they put on, they'd embellished from the OG. As a massive fan of the original FF7, a lot of it was great. The side quests weren't part of the story, and they weren't great, to be honest. Combat, great, yeah, but the side quests themselves, it was just filler, let's be honest. And some of the bits where you're like transporting aerophone boxes, although the voice acting was pretty good and all that lot, and it was like, I just feel like they kind of took it a little bit too far. But again, I didn't want the game to end when I was playing it, so I wasn't complaining. But I can completely understand if anybody said they hated those parts and would never want to do them again. I can understand that. Voice acting, although it's a little bit weird at first in terms of when you first hit you, you're like, Jesus, this is a bit crazy. But once you're in the zone and you get to know the characters, I resonate with every single one of them. I thought every single one of them did a masterclass job outside of Wedge. Wedge for me never hit at any point. He always seemed bad. That's just a personal thing. I'm pretty sure there's lots of people who thought, no, Wedge was the best one. You know, it's just an opinion. But in general, across the whole cast, I absolutely thought they knocked it out of the park. From President Shinra to Hojo to Barrett to Barrett. The whole thing in this sort of remake part of the game, Barrett was my favourite character. How the characters look and the graphics are beyond anything I've experienced before. Bar none. They looked amazing. They interacted amazing. Little things where the colour of the material that you're currently using travels through into the cutscenes. How fluid it all is. How they hide the loading screens. Just incredible. The general gameplay, mini games, things like that. The linearity of the game. It follows true to the original. The original was extremely linear at this point. I didn't like some of the... they did lack some exploration in parts where they didn't have to, and they stopped you from going back. But in general, these are very, very minor complaints and niggles. It's nothing to get hung up over. Customization was very good, and I enjoyed the fact that each weapon came with its new ability, and you had to learn it, and the abilities were all fantastic. However, with the actual sort of sphere, I'm going to call it a sphere grid, with the little nodes, I'd have preferred it if they had all the nodes already on the screen, and you start in the middle, and then obviously you unlock more as you go on, and all the nodes have question marks on them, so you can go over and have a look at the nodes, but you don't actually know what the node is until you actually get it and unlock it. This adds the extra air of, wow, I want to be able to get that. Do you know what I mean? It's very good when you can see what's to come, what's to grind for, as opposed to just you can see the very short future, and then yes, maybe you'll get a few more orbs, but they're automatically filled in, and it's you're kind of just going through the motions of it all. You're not actually planning or doing anything like that. And I think from a character progression standpoint, they kind of faltered a little bit there, but I'm glad that they had the idea that you could use the Buster Sword the whole game, and you wouldn't be, although there are certain weapons better matchups in the game, but you could get through the game using your favourite weapon if you wanted to, and I really like that. I really like adding materia through that system as well, and adding materia slots and links. It was genius from that point of perspective. But going forward in the future ones, they should definitely expand upon it, have way more options, and have a lot more unique nodes as well. I've seen a lot of it 5% increase fire and all that. That's okay to have, but also the things like the Bloodsucker, the vampire ones, where when you kill an enemy you get health back, and maybe even other ones where, I don't know, gain limit break when you gain a party limit break meter when you do X, or when you stagger an enemy. I think just like unique things they could add when you heal the whole party, or do you know what I mean? Like little things, little nuggets that they could add that maybe cost extra points, that can really sort of make you define your builds for each individual weapon. But again, that's something that can be saved for future installments. So customization for me was good. On the peak on the customization, they could have had Red 13 in this game, and we are going to go into spoilers now. So from now on, all those are off. Spoilers are just going to be spoiled, right? I'm not going to pull any punches. Red 13 could have easily have been a playable character. He could have had two weapons, with one of them dropping at some point, because there was enough time in the game for him to definitely get a weapon drop. He could have even just joined the party at the level Cloud's at, or something like that, and it would have took nothing away from the experience, and he definitely would not have not felt fleshed out. It was clearly just a design decision that they thought to themselves, let's just have him as an NPC for now. We don't really want to get into giving him weapons and stuff. And it was a time-saving maneuver. But they absolutely had enough time to put him in. When you play through the game, you realise how much time he's actually in your party throughout Hojo's lab and stuff and there afterwards. He's in it for a good 10 hours or so. Like, there's no... It's just an excuse, right? So I wasn't, but again, it didn't ruin my experience because they do include him in other ways, in like some mini games and things like that. And I love Red 13 anyway, and he does do his iconic sort of moves while you're playing with him. So that was pretty good. So so we've got the story, the gameplay, the graphics. Just absolutely fantastic. And yet, there's low points in the game, but you have to have low points to make the high points just feel that much more special. It's a story writing sort of gimmick where, if you have constant highs, you will adapt to the highs and they will no longer become highs. They will just become the norm. Does that make sense? And we've done it now with phones and technology, right? If I've got my phone now and I'm recording a video off my phone, I couldn't do that when I was a kid. I could play Snake on my phone when I was a kid. Now I can broadcast a video to the wall of me just talking gibberish. And it's no longer a high. It's no longer, oh my god, look what I can do. I'm not that impressed anymore. And that's what you can do in storytelling when you can have these points where it's a little bit drab. Pacing's really important. You don't want them to last very long. And I don't think they got the pacing on the side quest right. But if you have lows, but then you have highs, it's amazing. So, for instance, there's a side mission bit near the start, and it's not too long. It's still a little bit too long, but it's not that bad. Kill a couple of things. Here's your reward. You get a weapon or something like that. That's great, But then you go on to the bombing mission, and you fight Airbuster, and it's like, holy cow, this is incredible. And there's ways of doing things like that. But at that point, I was like, wow, this game's amazing. Like, this is everything I could ever dreamed of. But I wasn't like on the train at this point of this is the best game I've ever played, or at least one of the best games I've played. I was just at this point like, wow, this is great. I don't want this to end. I really enjoyed it. It was at the point where I hit Corneo's Coliseum, and I had not spoiled myself on any of the trailers, so I didn't even know what Rufus looked like or anything like that. I just went into Corneo's Coliseum, and the final fight came up with Hell House, and it was at that point I was like, this might be the best game ever made, because I'd already been through the Wall Market stuff. I'd already experienced Cloud at the Honeybee Inn and all the messages and stuff that brings. That I thought was this might be the best game ever made. Like the messages that the game portrays to the player throughout the whole of it, and again, it doesn't just end here. Like the rest of the stories, the whole thing of learning from mistakes, learning how to combat things and how things go. Every single person will become a better person if they play through the experience and they learn from the story. And they just do it so well. Tifa looks amazing, like oh my god. And then when they put them in the dresses and all that lot, Cloud looks amazing. It's like everything they've done as like a fan service. It's not just a fan service to us; it's a fan service to the actual developers. Like they're treating themselves. I remember when I was a kid, I'd be on the playground, where you talk to Aeris and you sit down to Aeris, fix a Sector 7 playground slums or whatever. And I used to like go around clicking everything, see if there was a potion or see if I could interact with anything. And I couldn't really. You couldn't really interact with much. A lot of the screens were static images, but you had this dream, this thing of, oh, I just want to get more out of it, And then when you're in the playground this time round, guess what? You can jump across the tyres, you can go down the slide, and all this. It's almost like that touch where you realise that the developers are just as much as a fan of the original as you were, and that just, it hit me in the feels when I crashed through and met Aerith for the first time, and I met the character, because I knew what was preordained for her going forward, and the from the voice actor to how she is, if you've got any sort of care for the character, you realise just how heartbreaking her character truly is. Right from get-go, she has a terrible fate. She loses her mother after being locked in a genetic testing lab all throughout her childhood, where she's surrounded by steel walls. and she doesn't get to see her mum much. Her mum's practically being dissected and tortured constantly. And then she gets by talking to nature and feeling safe within the surroundings that she's done. It's almost like a Stockholm syndrome, where she feels safer being in the under the steel sky, as she calls it, and it really resonates when you really think about it, and you think about the love and the care that these developers have put into the game, and you think about these things that deep, and you think, oh my god, they've actually included that, they thought about this. You really think to yourself, holy shit, this is a game, right? This isn't a half-ass sort of, oh, let's just put it out there, oh well, don't cut that out, it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be there, we can imply it. No, they literally just go all out on this one. And when you hear the voice actor, I was like, damn, this is... And the way she is in the game, where she's almost sarcastic to the point where she knows what's going on, she's very, very well aware, but she knows she can't say anything because people will probably label her as crazy. And she knows she's got these powers, she knows she can sort of talk to nature, and she's connected in some way to the planet, but she can never really be that way because she's learned from a very early on thing that kids will find that crazy and she will be outcast. So she's almost adopted this sarcastic personality where she knows how powerful she is, she knows how strong she is, but she likes winding Cloud up about it. And it's in the original game if you look for it, but it's carried so beautifully over to this game. So it was at the Hell House fight where I really thought, oh my god, this is probably like the best game I've ever played, like for real. And although there's lots of low lows and the pacing on the lows is wrong, it's too low for too long. The combat system even in those lows is so good that it kind of keeps you going through them. You're kind of like, well, yeah, I know I'm going to be doing this terrible grind thing right now, but you know what? I want to try out this new ability for Cloud. I want to try out this nail bat that I've just, whacked up to 100 through the customization, and, we'll see how it goes. And the fights are never dull. Like, you lose time in the fights. Like, time's just gone. Like, if you enter a fight and 10 minutes goes by, it feels like 5 seconds. It's just gone. Like, all sense of time during this game will evaporate while you're playing it. And I thought at that point, when you get to this point in the original game, I was like, oh, maybe I'm like 60, 70 way through. I've got to go through all that Shinra building and climb the wall at this point, after I've escaped the things. But you really associate the sector plate coming down with near the end of Midgar, right? It's fairly on its way. But actually, in the reality of things, how they paced it, how they've separated and enhanced and expanded upon the sections of the game, and added some new ones, you're not even halfway at this point. I would say you're probably 30% of the way through. Even if you're skipping side missions, you're 30% of the way through. And that's really nice. It's really nice to be able to expand upon what you love so much for so long. So the costumes that the characters are put in are wow. There's 3 as well, so you can go back through and put Tifa in a different outfit if you choose a different option. But they're all just incredible outfits, and throughout the whole thing, Cloud's exploring his inner self. He's almost, because he's adopted Zack's personality, as you'll know if you've ever played the original one. He literally just carries on Zack's legacy, and he believes that he is Zack due to Mako poisoning. Not believes that he is Zack, but he knows he's Cloud, but he believes that what's happened is what Zack, is what Zack's all his goals and stuff are based upon that. Let's just go to Midgar and be a merc and things like that. So he's almost exploring himself and being when they do the hand massage and all that lot on him, it's almost like he's coming out of his shell, finding out who he is, and the messages really hit home. They hit home for a lot of people, and I assume if you play this game and you're part of the trans community or anything like that, or just any community that's not the social norm, it would have been an absolutely magical experience. And it was, even for me. I'm not part of any of this. I'm just a straight white guy, but I can appreciate the love, the care, and what went into the game, and how much that would mean to all these players that back in the day, it doesn't stray from the fact that there's some kooky going on there, but there's something very different from the norm, and people thought they would stray away from that. And the only the things that they stray away from in this remake is they throw away the plot line of Hojo trying to mate Aerith with Red 13 to carry on the testing on the ancients because they want to preserve the bloodline. However, there's something hint. Well, I'll go on to that in a tiny little bit, but essentially they do away with that and a couple of other things that are necessary, but they definitely on this particular topic they just grab it and they just go, yeah, let's get in there. So then you've got Birdie, essentially Cornelia, who's actually brilliant in the game. Like he's done so well as this slime ball, and he is Birdie. They need to give Birdie a Cornelio costume now because it's literally Birdie. It's crazy. And fight with apps and it's amazing. You go through the sewers. The train yard was probably my least favorite section outside. Yeah, it probably was. Like the train yard for me, I don't know, there was something about it that I just didn't really connect with, but that's fine. I'm not going to connect with the whole of the game, but it was still enjoyable. I still enjoyed the combat. The end boss fight in that section was super cool, and again, just like Hell House, an homage to that particular area, and they do the fan service in that regard so well. So I'm going to speed this up now because I could be here all day. We're looking at a 40-50 hour playthrough, but when you finally get to the point where the plate comes down, the due to the character development on Jesse, Wags and Bidge, there is a section in the game that I've not mentioned, but there's a bike scene and Rosh, this new character, who maybe in future installments maybe a bit more of a player. I wasn't that. It was okay, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't that good. It was decent, but it wasn't like a high of the game at all. It was kind of like a flat, it's a little bit average, but it was okay. Rosh as a new character, he's not bad. He was a bit too hammy and a little bit too sort of cliche, but I mean it was clearly at that point totally on purpose for him to be that way. So when Biggs and Jesse have their sort of final words and whatnot, it really hits you because if you've been doing the side quests and things like that, you will learn that Biggs is actually the head of the orphanage, and you realise that the kids, as you're going around, they're all like running around like they think they're Cloud, and he says that they're so similar, and it's choking me up now. He's like, you've got so much in common with them. And it really, the character building is just phenomenal. And then obviously Jesse as well. And, the plate goes down. And it's a monumental moment in the OG game because it's the first time that even as a little kid you realise. And I was so young at the time. I'm 30 now. So, I was probably I couldn't have been more than 10 or something like that. It's the first time you realise that this game has adult themes running through it and people will die. And up until that point, there's very few things that really sort of go at it by the throat on that magnitude. It's a lot of it sort of off screen and things like that. But this one's like, no, they've just dropped a plate and killed millions of people. So when you get into Hojo's, when you climb the plate was a magnificent experience. The graphics, the scenery, absolutely incredible. Loved the boss fight there. I appreciate why they put it there and not at a later point. I thought they did that justice. I thought it was great. You finally get to the Shinra building. You climb the Shinra building, and it goes through a little sort of tutorial on Shinra and the people that are involved and why they're there in Neo Midgar. And it doesn't really do this that well in the original game. It's kind of there, but it's not in your face as much as it is now, and it's great for definitely someone who played the original but didn't really get too deep involved in the story, or for someone who's completely new to the game to just get a grasp of what Shinra actually is trying to do and this promised land that sort of harping on about. Once you've done all that and you've gone through the Shinra building, you kind of hit with the first time where you really see the Whispers. And I've not really mentioned the Whispers too much because there is so much going on, but the Whispers are essentially, they're the people that are keeping the timeline that you're playing through right now to be consistent with the original game. So the original game, the Whispers are making it so that everything plays out the exact same. So Sephiroth, after stabbing the Shinra President Shinra, he stabs Barrett, and it doesn't really hold much weight to it. I don't know if a Whisper comes to show, but you fight Jenova at this point after he's stabbed and he's not on your party. But I think you see a Whisper go straight to him, so you already kind of know he's not dead. Like, he's kind of... I wish they'd have just, Anyway. So, he dies, but then the Whispers bring him back because it's not the fate that's predetermined for him, as Red 13 says. And that's what the Whispers are there for. They're there to make sure that whatever happens in the original happens. That Aerith dies, Comet's summoned, Livestream saves the planet, but the planet's badly damaged. And the timeline that actually happens isn't a good ending. It's not a good ending for Sephiroth. It's not a good ending for Aerith. It's not a good ending for you or the party. It's a decent ending, and most good endings are bittersweet, right? But it's not a happy ending, right? Midgar is completely destroyed. Loads of people have lost their lives. It's not, the ideal ending, but it's also not an ideal ending for the bad guy either. That's why it's bittersweet. We'll go into heavy spoiler territory very, 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 very soon. Rufus comes in. My God. Probably like the best sort of redesign of a character in terms of just how badass he is. That's awesome. And expect to see a lot more of Rufus than you did in the original. Expect to see him to be a lot more of a threat. Expect to see him as a lot more of a presence. And that goes to, say, the Turks as well. The Turks are pretty much always in and about and stuff, but they're kind of just like... They're not even proper boss fights, They're just kind of just there. And they're like flies. You like swat them away. But the good thing about the Turks... And the Turks, again, I'm not even mentioning them. The Turks were amazing. Like, wow. Even, like, right through to Seng, they look so good. Rude was so cool. Reno's I like how they turned him from just this sort of guy with a staff, like a little pole thing, to this electric, super fast moving character using gadgets, and I really like that. But the whole, and I like the fact that Rude won't attack the girls as well, which is quite funny because he's got a crush on them. But yeah, it's so true to the original and brilliant, and you can go on all day. Hojo, like, he's perfectly designed to you just hate him, but you hate him in the original. He's just such a you just want to but they do such a great job. The boss fight there, it's like it's mind blowing. You're like, oh my God. Like, if people say the original one's the best game of all time, and you look at this, you're just like, it's great. Then a lot of people say it's filler, it's side quest, but I liked going through Hojo's lab. Gives a good explanation as to what was going on at Shinra and why, when you're in the Shinra building and Sephiroth comes through, why all these creatures are everywhere. Why am I getting attacked by Gehennas and stuff? Like, is it because this well, it's not Sephiroth, but this Jenova creation has just put them everywhere? No, it's because in breaking out Jenova, these have all broken out of the lab as well. And a lot of them are in the labs. It was just such a great way of explaining to someone who never just probably went with the flow on the original game, but never really sort of, because I must, on my first playthrough, I didn't really think too much about it. But on this playthrough, I was like, oh, right, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So Genova's revealed. That's fantastic. I mean, you just go through the whole game, just like, wow. Outside of the side quests, everything's just like bang, bang, bang. Like, a couple of niggles here and there, but you're like bang, bang, bang. So once you leave that, pretty cool bike scene. Actually, it was a little bit long, but it was definitely my favourite one, where you fight the boss at the end of the bike scene. It was actually pretty tough. I almost died. He hit me pretty hard. Because all the bike scenes up until this point it was like, they're not hard at all, but this moment, like, he hit me really hard, and you had to be quite careful. So he goes down, and then you think, oh, is that it now? Are we gonna go to Calm and then the game ends? Are we gonna, like, what's gonna happen now? But then the game just completely nails you, and we're entering into total spoilers now. It's been hinting at it through the whole game, and you've been thinking, this is weird, why is this happening? But you kind of just go with the flow. You don't really care that much, You're just playing the game. And you see Sephiroth really early on as well, like clones of Sephiroth are talking to Cloud, or at least we think they're clones of Sephiroth, because it could be the case that it is actually Sephiroth. And it hits you with a total curveball. It's been hinted at it throughout the whole of it, but basically Sephiroth turns up and he opens up this gateway and leaves. We don't know where he was going with the gateway. He wanted the party to go through, but it was like the crossroads or something like that. Not 100% sure where what his thing did, but Aerith steps in. Now this whole time, Aerith has known her fate. She's known that she's going to die casting Holy, right? She knows she's going to get into the live stream and that she will partially help the planet recover with the live stream, but a lot of damage is done. And this is the point. It's the first point where because in the original game, she's just, this is it, guys. This is what's gonna happen, and she just knows. She just knows it's gonna happen. It's almost like Yuna in FF10, right? Where the storyline's very similar, guys. Like from Summons of Massive, just think about it. Yuna in FF10 knows she's going to die, summoning the final Aeon. But everybody's just carrying on as normal. But the trick there is Tidus is the only one that doesn't know. But in this one, Aerith's the only one that knows, and everybody else is Tidus, right? And she hesitates at this point. She even says, I'm not even too sure if this is the right thing to do. Like, she doesn't even know, because she's gone through her whole life knowing what's going to happen and being in this protective shell of, well, as long as I'm within the whispers and all that lot, I feel safe. I feel like this is just what my destiny is, and this is what's going to happen. It's almost like a Stockholm Syndrome sort of thing, and that's why it references the Steel Sky and stuff. She's referencing saying she felt safe within her own story. The players feel safe knowing the storyline of FF7. They know that there's not going to be any deviation, and they feel safe, and that it's crazy. The developers are woke with this one, guys. Like, they're using Aerith as a platform to explain to the players that from now on, you do not know what's going to happen. From now on, all gloves are off. You just don't know. You can theorize, you can come up with all your theories like I'm doing here. You can talk the talk, but ultimately, that Steel Sky that you think's protecting your story and your bubble, we're just going to change it. Now, that's obviously, people are going to hate that. It's by design. They know people are going to hate it, but they also know that there's tons of people that, just such as myself, would love to experiment with the original storyline. What would happen if X didn't happen? What would happen if, Aerith didn't die? What if she does stay in the party, and maybe other characters don't quite make it? Like Aerith dying is super sad, but imagine if Tifa died. Now, I don't think they will make it so that Tifa died, but let's just imagine that Tifa gets poisoned when she's put up for execution, right? And she dies, and they make it just as emotional as Aerith's death. Like, that's going to hit a lot more people out than Aerith dying, because Aerith was a fluttering, passing sort of moment in that game, whereas Tifa's there for the long haul. So what if Cloud dies? What if the destiny is that Cloud's the problem? For the whole of this, the one thing that's consistent is Cloud being alive. What if Red 13's supposed to die? These are all questions that the developers want us to ask, and we don't know the answers, and nobody knows the answers. The only people that know the answers are the people that are writing the story, because they're the ones creating it. So this brings me on to the thing. You go in, you fight fate. You fight fate itself. You overcome fate. You overcome the Advent children, essentially, that come through. They summon Bahamut, which is really cool. And then when you finally sort of dispatch of the final fate, Sephiroth absorbs fate almost, and he becomes I don't know what he becomes. This is all it's just Sephiroth being Sephiroth, isn't it? And then you fight Sephiroth. Now, the fate fight was good. Like, I enjoyed all of it leading up to it. I enjoyed it. I've not been stung by Nomura. I never really cared about Kingdom Hearts. So a lot of people, this is just Nomura sticking his oar in. All I know is Nomura was on the original design team for the original FF7, and he was the one that said Aerith should die here. It was him that was stopping them from killing off most of the cast towards the end of the game. Like, Nomura, as much as he may have hurt Kingdom Hearts, he is the reason why FF7 is as good as it is. So I'm not going to sit here and prejudge him on anything. So I went in with a completely open mind, and I enjoyed it. I had no, like, oh, this bitch Nomura, all of that. I had none of that. And because I had none of that, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was epic. The scenes were epic. I enjoyed it so much. But it was nothing in comparison to the Sephiroth fight. That was just like next level amazing. The whole thing was just like, oh my god, this is amazing. So yeah, you fight Sephiroth in all these different sort of forms that you kind of go through, different elements and whatnot. And you know, he sprouts out a wing at one point. You know, his black wing, and it's like, oh my god, this is so sick. And his moves are sick, Hell's Gate and all that lot. You're just like, this is so good. And then once you sort of, you don't defeat him, but once you sort of deal enough damage to him to make him just like, go, right, I'm done here, I'm not getting anywhere, he drags Cloud to the edge of creation. And this is probably the first point in the game where Sephiroth breaks the fourth wall, and he finally reveals what's going on throughout the whole story here. And the whole idea here is that what we've been playing through this remake, there's a reason why it wasn't called Part 1 or anything like that. This is the only part of the game that has been remade. To explain that is, here on out, the story that's going to follow, it may well go along with the classic FF7. However, it's no longer a remake, it's almost like a retelling. So he says not yet, because it looks like, and it sets it up the exact same as the finale of the OG game. It looks exactly the same, they're both poised to fight. But the main thing here to take from this is that Sephiroth doesn't want to fight Cloud. He knows that Cloud kills him twice. Well, he didn't kill him the first time, but he mortally wounds him the first time, which means he has to recover in the crater, and he kills him in well, most of him in the end of the original game. And he doesn't want to fight him because he's seen destiny. He's seen his destiny just like Aerith's seen hers. And he realizes that it's not a good ending for him either in any way, shape or form. He whatever happens in the original game, he doesn't win, the party doesn't win. He wants Cloud's help. And this is big. From anyone that's watching this, there's too much emphasis on throughout the whole game on how much Sephiroth is grooming Cloud, to not have that as some sort of plot device going forward. Whether Cloud will go along with Sephiroth or agree with Sephiroth or try to or even, you know, go on Sephiroth's side, we don't know. I imagine in the grand scheme of things there's no chance of it happening, but you've got to look at it in context. Cloud at the start of the game doesn't really care about people, doesn't want to save the planet, only cares about himself, his money and Tifa, right? He goes on to care about the people a lot more, but it's not without saying that Sephiroth grooming him. I mean, he tries to stop him from even meeting Aerith. He's constantly, you know, sort of tapping him on the shoulder and all that. There's a lot of grooming going on here that would suggest that there is a reason why they're doing it. I don't know why, though, ultimately. It's all speculation. I'm just saying that he doesn't want to fight Cloud at the end on the thing. He knows what happens when he fights Cloud. And he just reminds him that there's 7 seconds. And the 7 seconds, according to a chapter description, is just until that comet hits. And I assume that's something to do, like, time isn't relative, so 7 seconds isn't our 7 seconds, it's something different. But the big shattering revolution here, and the thing that really kind of like throws the spanner in the works, is at that point in the timeline we've got the OG FF7 and the remake, and they both run parallel because of the Whispers, right? At this point, these are just doing this, right? Because the Whispers are making sure we defeat the Whispers, and at that point, this just can go this way, right? So this is the OG. It's going straight. We know what's going to happen. Aerith dies. This now, and it even says in the thing in the final sort of section or whatever, the unknown journey continues, because they are literally telling you guys you do not know what's going to happen. So we've gone from a world of us speculating. Oh, I wonder where the next part ends in the timeline. I wonder, is it where Aerith dies? Is it, is it just the ancient temple they're gonna get to, or is it gonna be even further than that? Like, where is it? Where is it? But in reality, we have no idea now, and that's what they want. The hype for the next game now isn't just, oh, where's it end? The hype for the next game now is, holy cow, where are they going to take this? Scary to some people, and again, I reference the fact of Aerith. Aerith is literally almost being a commentary on those people who are like, I don't like this. I prefer the comfort of the steel skies. They're the people that prefer the comfort of knowing the timeline and knowing when it's going to happen. She is those people. She knows the predetermined timeline. She knows what's going to happen, and she feels like that's her fate for what's to happen. But then when she sits and she hesitates, she didn't even know it's the right thing to do. That's her saying the developers don't know if this is the right thing to do either. And it may be a big mistake. I'm not saying that what they're doing is right. We're going to do it. We're no longer doing a remake. We're doing a retelling. So, crazy things. And then to convolute it even more, when they break the fate, and they change the fate for some strange reason. I don't know why it happens at this point in time, but the whole of Midgar also goes, there's like a white plume, I don't know what you'd say, at the timeline where Zack's fighting off the soldiers, and it was predestined in his fate that he would die there. The fate would make sure that he dies there, because that would mean that Cloud would go on to cloning and whatnot. But the fate things have been defeated outside of time, I believe. They may exist on some things, but at that moment they're not there, and they don't make sure Zack dies. So you've now got three timelines. You've got OG FF7 in the middle, right? You've now got this other timeline where Zack lives. So he's carried Cloud back, but he's alive now. Aerith's boyfriend's alive. This is different, right? And their mascot's different, but this is running parallel. This isn't even running parallel with the OG. This is like totally different. So you've got two timelines now. You've got Remake timeline and Zack timeline that are totally different to the OG, because the old timeline will not go the same. And this is where now they can really cock it up. And I'm going to be on the side of caution here and just say it could go badly. I like the fact that Zack's alive. I like the fact that they're going to include the possibility of maybe having him as a playable character. At what point you get to play him, I don't know. They may have it where, because what could happen is it's like Zack's timeline, Zack's alive, and it's like 20 years later. I think the OG FF7's 5 years later or something. This is 20 years later now, so it's much later in his timeline. But it's definitely verging on craziness, and it's going to get very, very confusing, and you're going to have to really know what's going on to go on. In regards to the future games of the remake, the timeline stuff won't have that much of effect. I believe that yes, there'll be a retelling and certain elements of the story will be different, but the general game will continue on as their journey continued in the original, because there's no reason for it not to. But certain things will just be different, and this is it, the unknown journey will continue. We don't know if it's going to be a lot more heavily Wu-Tai influence, things like that. We don't know what they're going to do, but it will still be within the realm of Final Fantasy VII, that world. Does that make sense? So things may happen differently. It may not be the same passage how it happens. People think that you're still going to do the same thing where you go the calm and then you go that way, but I don't know anymore. Like, we've already got Chocomog material, so you're not going to go up to the farm and get Chocomog from the Chocobo. We already know what Chocobos are. I don't know anymore, and it says the unknown journey will continue, and it's really exciting and really scary, because there is definitely potential to. They could make the greatest series of games from the OG FF7, which is just a standalone game, to Crisis Core and to the remake, and then obviously the film Advent Children. They could make the greatest storytelling thing ever, where these entities that are beyond space and time are still battling it out to get the correct timeline. You know, this is stuff that comics go into, you know, because they run out of stories. So they kind of like, you know, they're diverging the timeline stuff because it gives them the extra edge of changing things. It's scary. It's good, it's scary, and that's why Aerith is there to narrate the fact that things, you know, it is scary. You're not going to feel comfortable about this. We know, believe me, we know, but it's happening, and there's not much you can do. So it's crazy, and I'm super excited for the next one. This one was sick. The hard mode's really good fun. If you've not tried the hard mode yet, definitely go in there. You can't use items in the hard mode, but the bosses, I don't think I'm making up about the bosses. I did like the first 3 or 4 chapters. The bosses have different attacks, I think, or I just missed them in the first playthrough. But the bosses definitely had extra stuff that they didn't have before, and it's a lot harder. And your MP doesn't restore at rest points, so you kind of like, every single time you get to a playthrough, you've got certain times where your MP restores, but you've got to ration your MP, and or have a character that uses MP that gets it back through health. But then obviously you don't have unlimited supplies of MP and items. It's cool. I really like it. I do wish they had a hard mode from the get go where you can use items still, but it's just harder. That would be cool as well. But you can't ask for everything. So my general review of the game is, we're going to say I would give the game, if we're going on like out of 10, and we put points in as well, like 9 point something, I would give the game a 9.6. It loses 0.1 of a point on the side missions. It loses 0.1 of a point on the customizations, just not being quite crazy enough. It's still pretty, although there's options, it's kind of linear. It loses a point on the linear aspect, and the fact that it does stop a lot of the things going around, and then it may lose a point for like textures and random things like that. But everything else is just, it's a brilliant game. If you haven't played it yet, sorry if I've spoiled it. I mean, I've not even spoiled it. Like, you're still gonna play through, and you're still gonna get to experience all this stuff. And to be honest with you, the big spoiler about FF7 Remake is the fact that nobody can spoil what's gonna happen, because now we don't know. Like, the whole remake was a spoiler to begin with, because the original game spoiled it. Now there's no spoilers anymore. That's the whole point. The big spoiler is there's no spoilers, because I suppose you're being spoiled on that. But yeah, it's not. There's another thing that I just wanted to just briefly touch on, is with the Sephiroth and the fact that he's coming. He's almost coming. He's seen the fate of the planet. Now, if you don't know, Genova is like, she's almost like the Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, where she comes to the planet on a comet or a meteorite that destroys the ancient civilization which Aerith is the descendant of, and her whole sort of design, this alien thing, her whole being and existence is she literally, she sucks planets dry of their resources and stuff, and then she moves on to the next one, right? It's what she does. And it's Sephiroth is kind of like her worshipper slash very powerful entity, and that's got her DNA within her, and that's why he's so powerful. But you know, there are other people as well who, you know, they're drenched in Mako and stuff, and they're kind of powerful as well, such as Cloud and whatnot. But that's the whole general gist of it. Now, the thing about Sephiroth is, and the thing about the Ancients, is they're all connected. And I said this before about Red 13. Now, Hojo in the original game was going to mate Aerith with Red 13 because his tribe's also ancient. And I believe he wanted to continue some kind of bloodline so that if anything did happen to Aerith, that he would still have something to experiment on to find this promised land. Because there's the whole idea of the Ancients is that there is this some sort of promised land. And that's what the humans in that world are trying to get to. And Sephiroth also wants to get to it. But he just wants to destroy everything. That's Sephiroth's main goal in the end. So in this game, instead of having Aerith mate with him. They thought that was a bit too crude, I'd imagine. They just had it so that he was a specimen in the lab, and then Aerith almost touches him, and she... I don't know if it's because it's not really explained, but Red 13 had lost a piece of himself while being in the labs there. I don't know how long he'd been in there for, and she kind of helps him remember his lineage, his powers, so to speak, how his soul, it kept him intact, and she's so powerful that she's able to sort of realign him, and she shares some of her sort of ancientness with him. And that goes back on to kind of that thing that Red 13, the reason why he can speak and the reason why he is also kind of like is it the Guy tribe, the GI tribe, the G tribe? I know it's like G then I, the G tribe, but they are a tribe that got I don't want to spoil it, but they're a tribe that got wiped out, and the whole idea of what I'm saying in this thing is that these people and ancients and all that lot, they're outside of this time constraint that we are, us mere mortals. But Sephiroth is so far ahead that he's seen his destiny, he's seen all that lot, that he's now going back to try and change his fate. So not only do you want to change your fate, the bad guy wants to change his fate as well. It's kind of weird, because you would think that Sephiroth was like, they want to change their fate, but I want to change them. Maybe I should just let them do what they're doing, right? He's led them on that path, but he could just let them do it. But there's a lot of things, there's so many different intersecting things that come, like, why is Sephiroth trying to recruit Cloud? Why does Sephiroth need Cloud's power? Sephiroth's already super powerful. Like, what's going on there? So there is a lot of questions. And, from the get-go, I thought that my original theory was that Sephiroth in this game, in the remake, was the original Sephiroth, who's realised that he gets defeated and all that lot, and he never really goes to plan, and he's come back to rewrite what happens so that he can win. But in actual fact, it's so much more complicated than that. It's not just quite as simple, although it is the same in essence, because you've got to remember this entity exists outside of time. You take Cloud to the edge of creation. It's not so much that he's come back to do that, it's the fact that his existence, although he's moving the character towards that, he could be doing that on the original timeline anyway, because he's so powerful. But I think it's not too far-fetched to say that the Sephiroth in Remake is not the same Sephiroth in the OG timeline. I mean, the original timeline Sephiroth is a bit different than this one. This one seems like he's already knows. He's very much like Aerith. It's so weird when you get onto this thing, and I don't know whether this is the right way to take it, but if you watch the original game and you listen to the original game, a lot of this sort of stuff's in that game. There's a lot of cosmic horror sort of type things going on. There's a lot of vibes, so I just hope I want them to play it safe. I want them to do the fans a good service. I'd like them to tinker with things, but I'd also like a lot of the fan service that's gone in this game, where we still get to experience Cosmo Canyon, and we still get to experience all things that we once knew, and a lot of it is still runs and pans out the same, and I think in general a lot of it will, but I don't think the next game is going to be called FF7 Remake. I don't know what it's going to be called. It's not going to be called FF7 Remake. I don't know what they're going to call it. That'd be interesting. Just knowing the title of the next game will be a big giveaway. Like, Zack might be a play. Well, I'm pretty sure that Zack's... This is where it gets super confused, right? You've got the OG timeline, you've got Zack's timeline, and then you've got the remake timeline. So you've got three... I've not got three hands, but imagine there's three timelines, right? And Zack's time's going to go off this way. The OG is just going to go straight through the middle, and then the remake time is going to go that way. Because you've got to remember, even if Zack lives in this timeline, in the remake timeline and in the original timeline, he's still dead. Obviously, the original timeline, it intersects that point. So he's alive, dead. So in the remake, he's not just going to randomly pop up in the remake unless Sephiroth puppets Zack. The thing that could happen is that Sephiroth realizes that Zack survived on some timeline that he'd never done before. He'd never survived in any timeline before because of fate. But in this one timeline, he survived, and he manages to recruit Zack and drag him through time space like he does Cloud and put him into the remake. And that's going to be really hard to convey and a pill for a lot of people to swallow, but it's a really cool way of getting the characters across. One of the ways that it could end is that, you know, Aerith lives at some point but then dies at another point, because it's people on Reddit, even if you defy fate, you can't change destiny, like she's always going to die. Or they could have it that Cloud now becomes the bad guy, Sephiroth manages to convert him. You don't know, like, or Zack's now the hero and whatnot. You could have it where Zack and Cloud join forces to finally completely destroy Sephiroth and Jenova, like, completely. We don't know. Tifa could die, Red 13 could die, Barrett could actually die this time. Like, maybe that was foreshadowing for Barrett actually dying now, as penance for his actions and things like that. Because, you know, if you go through the original game, Barrett actually realizes, holy cow, I've been a bad person. Like, I have not done this the right way. So there's loads of different questions, and I'm so excited. It gives me something to be excited. Like Game of Thrones, I was super excited for Game of Thrones for so long, and I still am in the way, for the book version. But I'm not gonna lie to you, like, that last season was such a rush job. It really, like, it diminished my trust in people to actually deliver good endings. There was so many things that, you think of, oh my god, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. What's in the wall? Why was the wall built? What's this doing? And then to end it like that, it was like all that amazement and wonderment was just shattered into the most simplest of trash, rushed endings. And I don't know that the book will follow the same lines. It may have some of the same sort of similarities in things and how things may pan out, but I'm hoping that it's a lot more, because there's so much stuff in the books that's just made completely irrelevant by that season 8. I don't even want to talk about it. I just don't want to talk about it. Anyway, guys, this has been PonkCast 2. I've rabbled on about one of my favourite games of all time. I give it a 9.6. It's not perfect. Probably no game ever will be. But my god, it was a fantastic experience. I can't wait for the next one. Yes, it could get botched and it could completely destroy one of the main things. But in life, to love things and things like that, you have to take risks in order to create something beautiful. And it's like that in everything. Music, games, like, you have to be outside the box, not under your steel sky, not in your comfort blanket, if you want to create something truly magical. You can also create something horrendous, and that's why even in the game they're like, oh, we're not too sure about this, but they're going for it, guys. They're going for it. Let me know what you think down below. Let me know if you've played the game. Let me know if you've enjoyed it. Let me know what your favourite FF series is, like whether it's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or anything that's been produced. Maybe it's one of the MMOs, but let me know, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.